You don't know what I've been through. Let me share my story with you. All the things that he brought me through. My stormy days and my rainy days.
My name is Nikki Yvette Collins. I was diagnosed in 2016 with ductal carcinoma, breast cancer.
Shonda David. I was diagnosed with infiltrating ductal carcinoma and on April 16th, 2013. And I was in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Gloria J. Kelly. I was diagnosed with cancer March 2008. Type of cancer I was diagnosed with was breast cancer.
Alfonso Davis, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
My name is Patricia Paulson. I was diagnosed in November of 2018.
My full name is Audrey Whiting. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in May of 2013.
To say how I felt about it after the diagnosis or coming up to the diagnosis, it was a trial for me coming up to the diagnosis because it started with what initially began as a hair bump, what we thought was a hair bump, and it grew into a boil. It was a lump that grew into a boil, and then it metastasized and grew larger. And after having a procedure done where they did a fine needle aspiration and they took out a part of the tissue to evaluate it, it did not show cancerous. Then they pulled out a lymph node and it still didn't show cancerous. So until my third visit, when I was referred to the Mayo Clinic by a friend of mine who suggested I go to the Mayo Clinic for a second opinion. And it was at that point that I was informed of my cancer status. I kind of felt a little surprised, but relieved to know that we had finally come to the decision of knowing what exactly was going on. God came to me in the spirit form and advised me that this sickness is not unto death, but for him to get the glory. So that kind of relieved some of my anxiety about what was going on and what was going to transpire in terms of my treatment.
Well, my testimony is I was diagnosed with breast cancer on my first mammogram. I was 43 years old. I was in perfect health. I walked at that time 3 miles a day. Now I do 10 miles a day. And out of the blue, I started having some pains in my breast, which I ignored. I passed it off as a bad bra. And for 3 months, I went with just this dull pain in my right breast. And then one day, my coworker, who was a teacher in my program, I was a magnet coordinator with Palm Beach County School District, and he came to me and he said, I have to take off 3 months. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He said, I did not listen to my body. And I found out that I now have throat cancer. And I think God used that situation to make me listen because I was so used to going all the time that I didn't listen to my body. And that night, after he told me that, the pain came back and it was excruciating. And I listened that time. I immediately got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, called the emergency hotline to my gynecologist because I didn't know where to go. I never had breast pain, never had any illness. The next day they got me in. I went in and immediately I could tell something was not right because of the way that the sonogram tech was checking and rechecking and checking again and leaving the room and coming back. And then the doctor came in. And so my mind went, well, why else would she have tissue if something isn't wrong? And before I walked in the door, I looked at her and I said, how bad is it? And she says, well, I don't want to tell you. The doctor's going to tell you. So I went on into the room. The doctor came in and I said, let's not waste time. What do I have and how long do I have? And he looked at me and he immediately says, you're going to be totally okay because you're already showing me that you're going to be fine.
I was feeling scared. I was feeling isolated. Even though I had a husband, I wasn't feeling supported. I was feeling very scared. I am a nurse. I'm a registered nurse, and my background is labor and delivery, but so I've worked with women, but I was also on the board of support group in Maryland for women post mastectomies, and always took care of myself, tried to be healthy, never smoked, all the good things. And one year in 2018, I went for my normal mammogram, didn't think nothing of it. And from there, the process was put in place to do a further study. And it was about the end of November of 2018 when I went to see the doctor for the results. And he said there was a tumor.
After my diagnosis, I was shocked, a little bit sad because that's not something that you really, no one wants to hear that you have breast cancer. So my initial emotion was shock.
Oh my goodness, it was that time. It was a little scary. Then I had to realize I had to pray because God had to lead me through it because I didn't know. I mean, who know? Who would want to even think of that day when the doctor call you and tell you have cancer? So it was unbelievable. It was unimaginable as far as, yeah. But God got me through it.
Well, at first I was just a little, stunned by the diagnosis. But after, a few weeks or so, I kind of got used to the idea. And, of course, I did a lot of praying to God, asking Him to help me to accept my diagnosis. Um, then God came to me, and just like I'm talking right now, He said to me that He allowed me to have breast cancer for His glory. And after that, my faith just kind of kicked in. My faith in God kind of kicked in. And after that, I was okay, pretty much okay with it. I didn't stress out about it. I didn't worry about it. I just went on with my life.
I've been close to God for quite a few years in my life due to letting myself being influenced by people around me. I have no excuse for that. God knows that I wasn't. God always knows what's going on in your heart. And I felt like I needed to look for scriptures that might help me. And I was reading the words and actually reading them out loud sometimes, but never really taking them in. I was I wasn't opening my heart to the Lord so that He could touch me. Um, I was basically holding the Lord at bay. I feel like when I look back, I was holding Him at bay. Um, I wasn't blaming God. I just wasn't ready to receive any blessings. I was into my own. Um,
And the biggest part of my testimony is my strength is always pulled from my son. I have only one child, and at the time he was seventh grader, and I knew I had to be strong for him because we were so close. It was just the two of us in the house from the time he was 3 when I went through divorce, and so I did not mean for him to find out the day that I found out I had cancer, but I tried to close my bedroom door and call my mom and tell her what was going on, and he overheard. And he came into the room and he says, "Ma, are you going to die?" And he broke. And I looked at him and says, "I don't have time to die. What do you mean? Am I going to die? No, I'm not going to die. Mom has cancer. It can be a rough road for us, but we're going to go through this treatment and we're going to be just fine." And because I had to keep my word, because I always told him he couldn't quit, he couldn't give up, I immediately knew I couldn't quit and I couldn't give up in front of him. And so 20 rounds of chemo, 38 rounds of radiation, 14 surgeries later, I never missed a day of work. I dropped him at school. I went to work. got my teachers started. I left at 8:45. I arrived at the Lynn Cancer Institute in Boca Raton at 9 o'clock. I had chemo until 1. I left at 1 and was back at my school by 1:30. I taught for the remainder of the day. I went home. I was a band mom. I was band booster, vice president. I walked parades. I never missed a Friday night game with a bald head in the rain. Couldn't wear shoes. I wore socks because my feet were so swollen. But I was dedicated to my feet. I didn't have time to die. Me and God had already had a discussion about the death thing, and I knew it was not
Testimony
for me.
is it's just living to the fullest, enjoying every day.
My testimony is that I'm an overcomer, that I'm a faith walker, that even in the midst of um, the diagnosis, even in the midst of everything that had taken place, the surgeries and all of the doctor's visits, and my life just kind of being interrupted during that time, that I stood through it and trusted God all the way through it. And I just believe that I'm more than a survivor. Yes, I do. I believe that I am truly purposely designed for such a time as this, and I believe that it's to help someone else who may be diagnosed in the future, to let them see my faith and just to know that, if I overcame, that they can do the same.
To be doing this interview to let the world know that you can live. I mean, after it's like before I had cancer, I wasn't as happy. But now it's like totally different due to the fact I'm alive and I had cancer. That's one of the worst things you can even imagine. But I'm here. God is good.
As I said, God came to me and He told me what my purpose was, what He wanted me to do. He wanted me to give Him glory. And at first, I had to think about it. And I said, God trusts me with His glory. Who am I? And that sort of gave me a reason to want to continue to live, to encourage and inspire others who are going through what I'm going through, and just trust God and enjoy life. That's my motto. And that's what I like to do. I just like to enjoy life and just live and have faith in God and trust God.
What I want the world to know about this horrible disease with the fight with cancer is that, yes, it is. When you get to the position, at least for me, when I got to receive the diagnosis that it was cancer, even though they may tell you, the physicians may tell you a prognosis of what the outcome is going to be, you have to have if you have a relationship with God, it changes your outlook on, because you know that God has the power to heal you. And even if He doesn't heal you on this side, does not mean that you're not healed. It was just that your healing is to come on the other side.
I want the world to be aware. I remember being diagnosed, and the only thing I knew about cancer was people were diagnosed and then they died. I knew nothing about the in between. So the initial part of me, there was fear because of the unknown. Have to go get mammograms. We also have to know our family history. I did not know that I had 2 people in my family who had breast cancer. No one ever told me because, again, diagnosis, death. And so the world has to understand that though we may not see a cure today, we do see treatment that can lead to a lasting.
Early detection is mandatory. Um, since I was diagnosed, even in 2008, many advances have been made in detection and treatment of cancer, breast cancer, and all kinds of cancer. But early detection, yearly examinations, self-examinations are mandatory. You must take charge of your own body, You must examine your own body. Being being afraid to look at yourself and look out for yourself is no excuse.
I want the world to know that this is not a death sentence, that you can overcome, that you have to make sure that your focus and your foundation is sure that God has already healed you, that He is a healer and a deliverer. While dealing with my diagnosis, my family and my support system truly helped me because they were there praying, they were there with scriptures, helping me to be encouraged during the times when I was down. So that is, that's a major part of going through and overcoming anything, is to have that great support system.
Prayer. I just had to just pray. Pray, 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 pray. Because without prayer and a praying family, I would not have made it, I don't think. That motivation, you need your family.
When I was diagnosed with cancer, what it kept me pushing forward was that I had a desire to live. I did not want to, no matter what the situation looked like, I had a desire to live. I will say though, what did kind of give me a little concern was at one point during my hospital stay, I had a chemotherapy spill where some chemo that was being injected into my body spilled on the floor. And the medical team had to come in to clean up the spill. And everybody that came in the room had on hazmat suits. And I sat there and I thought, man, they have on a hazmat suit because they don't want the chemical to touch them. And this is a chemical that's going into my body. And it just made me think the potency and the strength of this chemical. But I know it was God. I truly believe that I'm strong, that I'm loved, and that I'll always be victorious. God has shown me that in so many different ways. He keeps on proving himself over and over and over again.
I truly believe that as women, we have an inner strength that is normally woken when we're put in tough situations. And it's through those trying times that we see our strength. We know that we're resilient. We know that we can survive it. We just have to literally put one foot in front of the other. And so for me, of course, I know that I'm strong. And I believe in encouraging the strength of others.
I am strong. I'm a survivor. I am victorious. And the devil is a liar.
Yes, I believe that I am strong.
I believe that I am loved, that I am strong, and I will always
Be victorious.